Hey guys, so today is going to be a little bit different of a video. I'll be doing a voiceover for this section because as you can see from the water, it's extremely windy and the audio is just very choppy, very messy. So I'm hoping we'll be able to hook into a few catfish and then fry them up later. My catfish setup is already in the water, but while I'm passively fishing for catfish, I'm going to be trying to hook up into a few bass with a wacky worm. My catfish rig at the moment is an ugly Stik Elite casting rod with my quantum nitrous reel, and I have 20-pound mono with a 1-ounce egg sinker going down into a barrel swivel, and right at the barrel swivel I have about a 1 to 2 foot leader going into a 2/0 circle hook. And then on the circle hook I have a marinated chicken breast, and it's marinated with a Kool-Aid packet. I was actually talking to some of the guys at a local bait shop here, and that's what they were recommending to hook into some eater-sized catfish, so we'll be trying that out. If you recall, the last time I was looking for catfish, I was only catching turtles. So I haven't actually fished for catfish out of this body of water before, so I'm really hoping to hook into a few here. So it's at this point I kind of begin to notice that something is going on with my line. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but you can see there's ever so slightly some bumps happening, and I have it sitting on my rod underneath my cooler so that whatever gets a hold of it doesn't instantly pull it off the side of the dock here. But I just slowly pick up on the rod and try to see if I can feel anything. And yeah, something's definitely messing with it, so we're just going to give it a real good tug here and see if we have anything on. Let's see. There we go, yeah. There's definitely something on, and at this moment, the only thing I could think of was, this better not be a turtle. Yeah, you can see it kind of hit the top of the water there briefly. It's definitely a fish, and it's not really fighting super hard, especially for, you'll see here in a second, for how big of a fish this is. It definitely didn't put up a fight. It was mostly just dragging it through the water. But yeah, this is probably a good, maybe a couple pound catfish, definitely eater size. And what we're going to do is we're going to end up sticking him up in the cooler and then rig up our rod again. One thing I really recommend before sticking them in the cooler is if you can, cut their gill plate. I'm not going to show it on the camera because it can be a little gruesome, but it will bleed out the fish and that will make your meat taste a lot better. So we're just going to get rigged back up with our chicken breast that was marinated in Kool-Aid and cast back out to where we caught the first fish. After casting back out, I'm just going to set the rod back down and I'm going to set the cooler on top of the rod. I'm not too worried about damaging this rod just because it is an ugly Stik and they do have that reputation of being nearly indestructible. So I know it'll take a beating before I have to worry about anything with it. But around this point in time, I noticed that something's kind of messing with my rod again. So I really just burn the reel coming back in, just trying to get it in as quickly as possible so I can pull up on the other rod and see if anything has got a hold of it or if I was just imagining things. So yeah, slowly try to get my cooler off without spooking whatever could be on it. But yeah, there's definitely something messing with it, so we pull up pretty hard. And it's at this point that I could tell it's definitely fighting like a fish. It's not going to be a turtle that's putting this much of a fight in. And you can't hear it on the audio, but it's taking a lot of drag. And it's quite funny how much drag it ends up taking and how hard of a fight it is putting up, because we're about to bring him onto the dock here. And you can see, compared to our first fish, he's much smaller than the first fish, but he fought like he was 2 or 3 times the size of our first fish. So he's still definitely going to be eatable size, so we're going to throw him in the cooler and then get to cleaning our fish. Okay, so we're going to move on to the cleaning section. I just have a basic fillet knife here, And what you want to do is on the catfish underneath its fin, you'll be able to feel kind of a hard bone there. You'll want to make a cut right below that bone and then rotate your fish so you can start working on the top of it. And then you'll start making very small cuts along the spine, just going all the way down. These don't have to be super deep. And then once you get past the belly of the fish, you can actually push your knife all the way through and then cut through to the end of the tail. After that, we go back to the top where we were making our small cuts, and we're just going to start making more cuts there and really opening up the fillet. You'll just follow the rib cage along the fish, and then that should get as much meat as possible off. Afterwards, I like to trim off any nasty fatty pieces. They'll be slightly yellowish and really unappetizing, so we'll just trim those off. And then we'll take the skin off the fish as well. To do that, I just make an incision into the fillet itself, and then rotate my knife 90 degrees, and then start wiggling the skin back and forth. I find this really helps get all the meat possible off of the fish. So after we have the skin cut off, we have our boneless, skinless fillet. And you'll want to just repeat the same process on the other side of the fish. I feel this side you can see slightly better about how we're making like the small cuts along the spine and going about opening up the fish. One other thing to keep in mind as you're going through this process is you do want to take it very slowly, just because you are using a sharp knife at a lot of kind of odd angles, so it is very easy to cut yourself. After you have your boneless, skinless fillets, I like putting them into a bucket of salt water. This will get any of the gunk off of the fish that may have got onto it during the filleting process, and then also it'll work as a brine to start brining the fish and make it a little tastier later on. Now we're going to begin moving on to the second fish. So this is the larger fish. One thing to keep in mind with the larger fish is that it is going to have slightly tougher skin. Otherwise, the process is exactly the same. We're going to go along the spine here. We're going to cut through once we get past the stomach, then begin opening up the fillet along the rib cage, cut that off, and then take the skin off the fish. Then repeat that on the other side. One of the reasons that I don't like to punch all the way through with a knife until we get past the stomach is catfish guts can be very disgusting, and you definitely do not want that anywhere on your countertops or wherever you may be cleaning the fish. And that is also another reason we take it slowly, is we definitely do not want to puncture any of the guts. After we rinse all of our fillets, we are going to cut these fillets into little nuggets. This is just going to make sure that everything cooks a bit more evenly. And if you're worried about doneness of the fish, this is just going to make sure everything gets cooked through properly. Okay, so now that we have our nuggets, we can begin breading them. I personally just use a pre-made breading mixture from the supermarket and add a lot of blackening seasoning to it, but you can use flour and buttermilk or breadcrumbs or kind of whatever breading combination you prefer. I dip the nuggets into a touch of milk and then into our breading spice mixture and then set them on a plate just to get them ready for frying. So now onto the stovetop. I have my Dutch oven with canola oil here, but really any neutral oil like a vegetable or peanut oil will work. I monitor the temperature of it, so once it's around 350 degrees, we know we're good to start cooking. If you don't have a thermometer to check the temperature of your oil, what you can do is take a little bit of your breading and just put it into the oil, and if you see it bubbling, like when I dunk the nuggets here, you'll know you are good to start cooking. So I fry my nuggets for around 3 to 3.5, 4 minutes. Really, you just want to see them start crisping up really well. And then I will temp mine just to make sure they're over that 165 Fahrenheit. That's a little excessive for most fish, but since this is freshwater fish, I do want to make sure that any parasites that could be in the fish are killed. I fry mine in small batches just to keep the oil temperature high and not drop as much when you add the nuggets in. And it also avoids a lot of the sticking and clumping you can get when frying in big batches. After that, pretty much all the hard work is done, and all you have to do is ladle them out onto a paper towel lined plate or onto a wire rack, whatever works best for you, and then pretty much just enjoy your catfish. I hope you you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.